Week 2, Wednesday, May 1 to Tuesday, May 7, 2024. I've been working on the community gardening crew this week. We convert lawns to vegetable gardens. It's hot, dirty, hard work. Walt, an avid gardener and in charge of the crew, told me Alan is pulling me off his crew and wanted to see me. I told Walt I had a garden plot all ready for planting at my house and asked him for some seeds. He gave me 7 prepared seed potatoes, cut, dusted, and ready to plant, and 2 packs of seeds, peppers, and carrots. No tomatoes this year, I thought, and flashed on when my kids were little, picking tomatoes in the garden. And my adult kids now, and my grandkids. I had a deep sense of worry and loss wash over me. Shake it off, I thought. Rub some dirt on it and keep going. You are much too busy to speculate. Just pray and have faith that they are all okay, I told myself. I had taken to riding the motorcycle up and down the hill, so I went home, took a quick bucket bath, and put on some clean clothes. MHM had set up a central command in a house halfway up the hill. I had never been there before. I knocked on the front door. June Culver let me in. Alan was seated at a large dining room table he was using as a desk. It was covered with yellow legal pads, a topo map, a small shortwave radio like mine, a 2-way radio, some batteries, and several used coffee cups. "What's up, Alan?" I asked. "Bill, I'm taking you off all work crews. I want you to concentrate on the Hoarder's House inventory and focus on defense training. We are going to need to protect the backdoor access from the fire trail above your street. You're going to need to build a team for that. I can't be all places all the time. I need some more help, Bill, and I'm depending on you to provide it. You will be working directly with McMahon for defense training. Also, I want you and Ron Reagan to go everywhere on the hill and get to know everything that is happening. Work with the other street captains, meet others, and start to assemble a list of names for a team. You guys will also be my bird dogs, my eyes and ears," Alan said. "Okay, I'm up to it. Thank you for your confidence, Alan," I said. "Don't thank me too soon," Alan replied. "Bill, I remember you saying you were going to go to your son in Bishop. He's an Inyo County Sheriff deputy, right?" Alan asked. "Yes. That was before I knew about you and the defense plans for the hill. Why do you ask?" I answered. "Come with me. I have something to show you," Alan said, and we went upstairs. He knocked on a door and we heard, "Come in." Alan opened the door. We entered a darkened room and I was shocked. I couldn't believe my eyes. "Bill, meet Maggie Simons," Alan said, as a small gray-haired lady waved from behind a bank of equipment. Maggie is a ham radio operator, and this is her home. She has made contact with many other operators all over the world, including one in Bishop. "I think we might be able to reach your son," Alan said. "My God, you would do that for me?" "Yes, please. Thank you, Alan," I exclaimed. "We'll try. If we can reach your son, we'll set up a time when both of you will be at the radio so you two can talk. It'll have to be quick, though. Maggie will talk to Bishop. Bishop will try to contact your son, and we'll hopefully make it happen," Alan said. "This is confidential, Bill. There is no guarantee we can do this. We have to be careful what information is used. It might take a couple of days. I'll let you know," Alan said. "Thank you so much." I gestured at the room. "But how can this be?" I questioned. "Solar," Maggie replied, "and an old 1960s Heathkit tube radio. Never throw anything away," she said, and laughed. "I'm making just enough power to run this old energy-hungry tube equipment, light and fan for about 4 hours a day, and charge some batteries for Duke." Alan and I finished our meeting, and I left the house very happy. What a wonderful gift. I felt a lump in my throat. Less than an hour ago, I was considering the potential and likely complete loss of my family, and now there was hope of connecting with one of them. The next day, I met up with Ron Reagan for our grand tour. Some of the hills' streets I had never been on before. We used my motorcycle to get around. On Edinburgh Court, we stopped to see Duke Nukem. He had quite the operation set up. He had collected over 55 gasoline-powered lawnmowers, was using 3 garages as shops, and had 15 helpers. They were converting these small lawnmower engines to use with salvaged car alternators to charge batteries and with several scavenged inverters to change DC to AC current. Like the rig we used on our house demo crew to charge tool batteries, run some saws, provide light, etc. He was also using several of these small engines and salvaged swimming pool water pumps to make portable firefighting rigs. People were busy all over. There were 4 security weapons training classes being held on Logan Street. The demo crews were mostly finished with the security wall at the highway. Wood demo and gathering was in full operation on several streets. Same for gasoline collecting, auto battery, and alternator salvaging. There was a firefighting class soaking the remaining interiors of the perimeter houses along the highway. There was a crew of 5 collecting, purifying, and distributing drinking water. Stan Kubrick, a doctor, and Dorothy Gale, a dentist, were seeing people and making old-fashioned house calls. In addition to running the community kitchen, Karen had inventoried the entire Schmidt food hoard and determined that using just that resource, there was enough food to feed everybody 1 small meal a day for at least a full year. No food would need to be collected from residents at this time. It was great to go past the park and see the kids in class at Ann's school, or playing. As with the 19th century rural one-room schoolhouses or modern homeschoolers, the older kids helped the younger ones. A makeshift crematorium furnace had been built in the retention basin, and fuel was stockpiled for future use. There was a lot of activity. Things were moving in a positive direction and seemed to be coming together. I was very impressed that Alan had been able to get all of this organized and up and running. I asked Trey Whitney and Ben Lomond, 2 Afghan vets, to move into the Citadel to provide better protection of the hill's back door from the fire road just above Red Bluff. In addition, they and an older widow started to make Citadel ammunition of various calibers and gauges based on need. During our meet and greet on Long Valley Road, we were told by the street captain, Alice Holmes, that there was a potential problem. One of the residents was trying to seed and spread discontent. His name was Sean Altman, and he lived next door. She said he didn't participate in any work crews or any other type of hill activity, and continually tried to create doubt, fear, and undermine our efforts. Ron and I went over to meet him to ask if he would discuss his opinions and thoughts with us. When I saw him, I recognized that he was the guy with the chip on his shoulder I had met at the first group meeting I attended. We didn't get very far. He immediately told us to get off his property and slammed the door in our faces. I flashed back to my encounter with Schmidt, and a shiver went down my spine. Also during this week, there were several classes with Eric, the Navy SEAL. One was on Overwatch. He took us to a location in a backyard abutting the north-facing steep slope, about 175 feet in elevation up the hill, and about 150 yards from the bridge. It had a clear view of the FOP, bridge, flood channel, and highway approach. There was a second site on the rural west flank of the hill. He and several others were manning these Overwatch sites 24/7. "He still there?" Eric asked the man on duty. "Yep, hasn't moved all day." Eric turned to the assembled class. Overwatch takes being patient, persistent, and possessive. There is no room to be neglectful. You have to own the process, all of it, like a police stakeout. Case in point, there's a single man about 1/4 mile down the highway, concealed by a bush. He's armed and has been there since dawn. He is watching the FOP at the bridge. You can't ignore him, dismiss him, or assume his motivations. He should be considered an active threat. Everyone down there is an active threat, he said, pointing to the valley below. These Overwatch sites are a critical part of our defense. You will be an extra pair of eyes on, not a shooter. Do not take your responsibility and active time here lightly, Eric said. After the Overwatch session, I went back up the hill and worked on the Schmidt junk inventory again for several hours. At dusk, Reagan gave me a call on the two-way. Bill, can you come to the North FOP, please? We have a situation that requires you here. I had no idea what was going on as I rode down the hill and onto the highway. I saw our defensive wall from this side for the first time. It ran 100 yards from the northeast side of the property and the other 100 yards from the southwest side. This part of the defense plan was now almost completed. I pulled up to the FOP. "What's up, Ron?" I asked. About 30 minutes ago, Oversight radioed that a lone individual was moving towards our position. He's here, standing on the other side of the bridge, Ron said, handing me binoculars. We used a bullhorn to warn him off, but he laid his rifle down, raised his hands, and said he lives here, on your street, Red Bluff. "Do you know him?" "No," I said, looking with the binoculars. "Cover me," I said, and immediately left the FOP and walked towards the stranger. "Bill, get back here," Ron said. I ignored him, reached the man, and shook his hand. "I'm Bill Albright. I live on Red Bluff." "So do I. My name is Elo Benari," he said. "I don't know you. Do you have family?" I replied. "Yes, my wife Naza and children Olan and Amira." I smiled broadly at him and said, "They are okay and will be thrilled that you are safe and have returned home." I waved okay to Ron back at the FOP. I told Elo to pick up his weapon, and we walked across the bridge. "Welcome home," I said. I introduced him to Ron and the others. I noticed his clothes were covered with dried blood. "Are you hurt?" I asked, pointing to the blood. "Not my blood. Other men's. Dead men." Ron and the others looked at each other. We got on the motorcycle and rode up the hill in silence. I dropped him off in front of his house. "I am glad you are here. Good night." I would have loved to have been at the reunion, but it wasn't my place. I gave a quick thank you prayer as he walked up the driveway, and I rode home. At home I downed a big drink of water, but wasn't very hungry. I guess the less you eat, the less you want after a while. If I kept losing weight, I would wear my smaller size clothes I had put away 2 years ago after Mary died. I became depressed and started overeating. My place was a mess. I had been working so much and rushing I hadn't had the time to keep things neat. I straightened up the kitchen, washed the dishes, and loaded 5 buckets with dirty laundry to soak overnight. As I worked, my thoughts turned to Franklin. I decided to up his trust level a notch by teaching him to take food when I came closer. Not out of my hand, I will not do that, but just closer. I'll start tomorrow morning. He's a very smart raven, and I'm sure it won't take long. It was after sunset when I was finally able to go out onto the patio and relax. With cab in hand, I sat down and looked out at the world. I was a little taken back to see all the fires. There was one huge fire, I estimated 8 miles away on the other side of the valley. Was an entire neighborhood burning? An industrial section? I owned several warehouses in that general vicinity. I had been so busy all week that all of my attention had turned inward onto the hill, and the outside world had receded from my thoughts. When I saw an explosion push a fireball high over that one large fire across the valley, all of that world flooded back into my mind. I took a few more sips of wine, but really didn't want any more, so I poured it back into the bottle. I was suddenly tired, very tired. I heard closer than usual gunfire. Then the radio suddenly crackled to life. "FOP under attack," a voice screamed.